Hey guys, what's up? My name is Elizabeth and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be talking about Church Lingo 101. If you have not noticed that if you go to different churches, you will notice that we have our own lingo, or what some people call Christianese. We have words from justification to sanctification to pastors, deacons, elders, ministers, missionaries, altar calls, baptism, the Lord's Supper, Sunday school, midweek service. So we have a lot of terminology. So here's the question when it comes down to it, is if you notice that even though we have all these different terminology, have you ever noticed that we also have different names for what we call different churches? And when I mean churches, I'm talking about the local church in this case. Those churches can be discussed as just the church as everyone who is a Christian. When I'm talking about church in this sense, I'm talking about the local church, as in a smaller group of the bigger church, a smaller group that confesses the same beliefs. This is where we're going to be talking about creeds. And creeds help people to express their same beliefs and to also be able to work very tight-knit together to further whatever work that they think is important. In my belief, it would be the Great Commission. So that's what this video is going to be all about. So we're going to be reviewing words such as theological triage, denominations, creeds, and credos. Those are 4 Church Lingo 101 words that we are going to review, y'all. The first word that I talked about was theological triage. Now, what is it? Well, if you've ever gone to a medical place, you know that if someone's bleeding out, the medical staff are going to take them first before they take the person who's just sneezing in the background, right? So what does this have to do with Christian stuff, right? So here's the thing. A lot of times believers have a tendency to kind of like divide themselves, or let's not think about dividing, but rather group up with each other to fulfill some kind of mission, some kind of purpose, right? But you gotta have the same beliefs, or the same beliefs of how that mission ought to take place. Different missions require different beliefs, or the importance of beliefs. For instance, food banks, right? I'm pretty sure both believers and unbelievers can work at food banks, can work at clothing. But it's really hard for believers and unbelievers to work in the sense of going door to door and witnessing to other believers, right? And then when it comes to even believers within themselves, when you have one person that has so far different beliefs in the Christian faith. Yes, they are Christian. They believe in the Trinity. They believe that Jesus died and rose again for their sins. They believe that salvation is by grace alone. Yes, they believe that. But maybe it's hard for them to disciple that person, because discipleship will get into the issue of baptism, will get into the issue of the Lord's Supper. And so with that, it kind of helps people to realize how to relate with other believers. How deep on a level can we go with this other believer in the aspect of fellowshipping with the other believers? If it's just a stakeout, great. But if it's a deep seminar about how leadership in the church is structured, then sometimes that's going to have the people group into denominations, and local churches group up and saying this is what we actually believe. So let's just talk about theological triage, and maybe this will start making sense once I start defining the 3 levels of the theological triage. So the first level is the division from believers and unbelievers. In essence, this divides people from atheists to Christians, from people who don't believe that salvation is by grace alone to people who do believe salvation is by grace alone, to just even believing is Christ the Messiah. So that's a really big division. Like people who who go door to door witnessing. An unbeliever can't do that with a believer. The second level of the theological triage is division with other believers. This is what produces denominations. So what produces denomination is this level. So it will be issues such as the government of the church. How should the church run? Should it be the people up or something higher coming down upon the people? Should baptism be sprinkling of water or immersion? Should babies be baptized or should they be of age where they can make that their own decisions? So those are the type of things that divide believers and kind of make up denominations like Southern Baptist and United Presbyterian, the Wesleyan Church. That's what makes those things up. And these people usually can even work on maybe having a witnessing opportunity, but even then some churches would say, no, we can't even do that with them. So it depends on that. And then the last level, and this is the least important level, is the division in the same congregation. This is where you can literally sit on the same pew and don't actually see eye to eye in a certain theological area. For instance, theological area or just doctrine. For instance, it would be eschatology, which means end times. A lot of people can sit in the same pew and believe differently in end times area. So I think that's the best example for that. And so that's why theological triage is really important. It really helps you to understand, yes, doctrine is important. Yes, it's important to know what you believe and have your own personal credo, but it's also important to know which parts of the credo is more important in the aspect of how you relate to someone else in the same faith. So what is a denomination? A denomination, by Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is a religious organization whose congregations are united in their adherence to its belief and practice. So how are they united? They are united through their beliefs, and this belief is called creed. For Merriam-Webster, once again, a creed is a belief, authoritative formula of religious belief, or a set of fundamental beliefs. Also, it's a guiding principle. So literally, a creed is where pretty much a group of people come together and say, this is what we believe. Some examples of credos would be the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, and the Chaldean. Some other more recent creeds or confession of faith, which we're going to talk about how confession of faith is literally the same thing as creed, which would be the Chicago Statement of Biblical Inerrancy. This is how the beliefs that the Bible is inerrant, as in it has no error within it. And then we have something called the Denver Statement, and the most recent kind of like update or more specifying what the Denver Statement said is the Nashville Statement, which is pretty much based on gender. What do you believe about gender? So those are some examples of creeds or confessions of faith. Now, if you have been around Baptists long enough, you know that some Baptists are very leery of the word creed because we believe in the local autonomy of the church. That means there is nothing higher than the local church itself. We are Scripture alone, Bible alone, and and God is our final authority. So therefore, we can be leery. Some Baptists can be leery of creeds. However, does this mean that Baptists don't have creed? The answer is no. We actually have creeds. We often call it confessions of faith. Another thing that, specifically in Southern Baptist, we have something called the Baptist Faith and Message. And I have referenced this a couple of times. And you can pretty much call the Baptist Faith and Message pretty much a creed. I remember that when I was sitting in a church one day, well, a couple of times, we will often sometimes recite the Baptist Faith and Message for our confession of faith statements. So pretty much a confession of faith is the same thing as creeds. But if we want to get into the nitty-gritty of the difference between it, here's what one person kind of defined the difference. A creed is simply the statement of a meaning of the facts of religion, while confession of faith are people's efforts to state what the great facts of their religion means. Pretty much, as I said, creeds is statements of faith, while confession is what a multiple group of people have said, yes, this is what we believe. But pretty much creeds and confession of faith can pretty much be very interchangeable, and if you ask different people, they might give you a completely different answer. So the last question I think we ought to ask is, why do we need creeds? Well, we need creeds specifically to help identify different groups of churches from other groups of churches. It helps us understand pretty much our missions. Like, for instance, in the Southern Baptists, we are very big on the Great Commission, and therefore we have that within our statement of faith. And because we have this statement of faith, it's like, okay, I know that you believe this, I know that you believe that. Okay, so now let's link arm in arm and work together. That's what creed is mainly for. It also helps to defend against false charges or heresy, pretty much. It helps to defend against someone coming up with something really weird or strange, or like the idea of baptizing cats. And by the way, that has happened before. I thought someone was crazy when they mentioned that, but it apparently has happened before. It also helps to just unify the church by just saying, okay, I realize you believe that. So it helps kind of like strengthen the beliefs of one another. And it helps to be sure of doctrine, as in that there's no doctrine confusion or vagueness. It's something to help like write in stone that this is what we believe. Now, does this mean that creeds shouldn't ever change? No, creeds should change and be updated or reinstated to ensure that the belief, it doesn't become a dead hand, is what they call it. That it's still a current belief, that this is still what we believe. Just like you still recheck goals to make sure that you're on track, people should recheck the creeds or the statement of faith to say, yes, this is still what we believe. We believe that the Bible has the Bible supports this belief. So lastly, I think I always said lastly, but I'm truly meaning lastly now. What then is a credo? So a credo is a lot like a creed, but the difference is credo is a lot more personal. Creed is rather usually a statement of faith, confession of faith, where people say it as a whole, while credo is something that you personally believe. So a creed could be something you personally believe, but it could also not be something you believe. The word credo literally comes from the Latin word means I believe. And a Christian, and it doesn't have to be a Christian who has a credo. Everybody, in essence, has a credo because we all believe in something. Even the postmodernists have a creed. Their credo is, I believe there's no absolute truth. So we all have credos. Thank you so much for watching this video, y'all. I am hoping to do some more other Church Lingo 101. This is just the start of it, y'all. I really hope to explain some more church lingo, but I first thought we should just start with like the name of the churches. If you notice, there's sometimes the First Presbyterian Church of blank, or the First Baptist Church of blank, or the United Methodist Church of blank, you know. So we understand where denominations come from, and they come from the fact that different groups of people have different credos, and within that credos they have said, okay, some areas will agree to disagree, therefore we can link arm in arm with them, therefore they make a confession of faith, therefore they end up writing a creed, and therefore they end up becoming a denomination, right? So we gotta understand that. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any other words that you want me to define, please comment that down in the description below. Or if you have anything else that you just plain want to say, comment that down below. And I think that's pretty much it. So subscribe, press that bell button to get notifications. Give me a thumbs up because I love to hear from you. I think pretty soon I'll be doing a Father's Day special video. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing like a cookout steak or something like that. I think it's ribs actually. I don't know. My dad knows a lot more about meat than I do. I just eat meat because it has protein in it. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. God bless you. Bye.